Just your thoughts on this gaffe, and was this the president speaking out loud here?
I think it was the president. He made a minor slip, but the White House corrected it literally within minutes. They've also been taking steps today to make very clear. So I don't think there's much doubt in the mind of the Russians that any advance of Russian military forces, a new advance of Russian military forces in Ukraine, would trigger the sorts of costs that the president has been talking about really since the first conversation he had in December, back on December 7th.
I guess all of this is a complicating factor as well, as we see Secretary Blinken also coming into this very high stakes meeting with Sergei Lavrov in Geneva later on today. What is at stake? What's the messaging? And is there still a diplomatic off-ramp here in your view?
There still is a diplomatic off-ramp, but I think I'm keeping my expectations for the meeting today in Geneva rather modest, because there were several sets of meetings last week, including U.S. and Russian officials and NATO and Russian officials, where it was made very clear to the Russians that the key demands that they were asking for were simply not acceptable. They were non-starters. And even you've seen commentary out of Moscow saying that, yes, there were some positive nuances, but the Americans and NATO have not agreed to our major demands. And I don't see that position changing when Secretary Blinken sits down in Geneva with Foreign Minister Lavrov.
So is Lavrov going to bring anything new to the table in order to keep this door of diplomacy open, perhaps?
One would hope so, but again, I'm keeping my expectations modest, just based on the commentary that's coming out even in the last couple of days from the Russians. For example, one of the Russian deputy foreign ministers said yesterday that it remains an absolute Russian demand that NATO forswear any further enlargement. And I believe in last Wednesday, when NATO and Russia officials met in Brussels, NATO officials were very clear that they were not prepared to do that. The United States and NATO said that there are some of the items that the Russians seek, discussions, for example, on limiting the scope and the size of military exercises, discussions on missiles in Europe, that could be possible for discussion and even negotiation. NATO's not going to give up its right to enlarge, and NATO's not going to agree to withdraw forces from those countries that joined the alliance after 1997, and those seem to be two of the key Russian demands. So the question is Mr. Lavrov going to come and signal that the Russians are prepared to accept something less than those demands?
Indeed. And the other question is, what will Putin do next? Because it seems as if the Kremlin is really out on a limb here. There's no really good option for President Putin. He either takes an embarrassing back down now, or he decides to go ahead and indeed invade Ukraine. What do you think is going to happen next?
Well, it may well be that Mr. Putin has not yet made his decision. This is somebody who likes to have options. And what we've seen over the last 2 months is Russian military deployments are giving him the option for major military action against Ukraine. But I do worry that over the last couple of months, the Kremlin has painted itself into a corner with the rhetoric, with advancing demands that they know cannot be met by NATO, and then this military buildup. At the end of the day, is he prepared, or can he find some way out that does not involve military action? And I'm afraid that they seem to be more tightly painting themselves into the corner where they may give themselves no other choice.